Hi, I'm Stephen from 9.8. In this video, we will show you how to install a Slacker IS in your integrated standard headset bike. If you're wondering if Slacker is right for you, or which Slacker will best fit your bike, check the other Slacker videos linked in the description. IS headsets have the headset bearings supported directly in the frame without cups. These are often referred to as integrated headsets or IS headsets. In 9.8 parlance, we tend to call them IS headsets. First thing to do is remove the headset. On IS bikes, this is really quite easy. Remove the top cap, the stem, the spacers, and the fork. Remove the bearings and the compression ring. You're going to reuse your bearings and all the other parts, so clean and inspect them now and order replacements if necessary. Clean the bearing seats and the frame thoroughly. The new Slacker cups need to sit down into the frame. They nest on the bearing seats in the frame. But some frames have overly narrow throat dimension, like this Rocky Mountain does. Notice that the throat is only 33 millimeters and the Slacker top cup needs 34.5 millimeters. It's pretty easy to sand this out a little to get the Slacker to fit. This procedure works with both carbon and aluminum frames and does not affect the strength of the frame. We've taped a shop vac nozzle to the frame to control carbon dust. Carbon dust is particularly dangerous, so wear a mask and eye protection every time. You can sand it by hand using a cylindrical sanding bar, or you can use a sanding flap disc on a drill. A large diameter sanding drum works even better. Sand, measure, check, repeat. When the cup will fit, check that it sits all the way down. There should be an even small gap all the way around. That indicates that the cup is properly supported on the bearing seat. You need to mark the center line of your frame behind the head tube, both on the top and on the bottom. There are a few different ways you can do this. First, I always put some tape over the frame here so I don't mark it. You can use a piece of string from the front center if you have a badge there or other indication of center, and you can stretch it to the back. Or you can just measure the width of the frame and then mark half the distance. You can even eyeball it, but remember, the Slacker is eccentric, so if you have any error here, it will result in slight angular misalignment left to right of your fork. Here are the three components of the IS Slacker. There's an upper cup, a lower cup, and a tensioner. A special tightening spline is also included. More on that later. This section model shows how the tensioner is threaded into both the upper and the lower cups, and it's tightened to securely pull the two cups together and lock them into your frame. Also notice the tapers. These are the seats where the Slacker cups securely sit on the bike frame bearing seats. Let's first do a dry fit to see how everything goes together. The tensioner has a left-hand thread at the lower large end and a right-hand thread at the upper smaller end. Start the tensioner one turn only onto the lower cup. Remember, this is left-hand thread. You want to say this part out loud very dramatically like Sean Connery in The Hunt for Red October. One turn only. Insert the lower cup with the tensioner into the head tube. You can roughly clock the rotational position with the notch to the frame mark that you made earlier. We will adjust the clock position more accurately later. Let me demonstrate how the slacker tensioner works and why it's so important to only have it started in one turn. Notice how the tensioner pulls both the upper and lower cups together equally as it's tightened. The purpose of doing only one turn, upper and lower, is to ensure that the tensioner is exactly equally engaged into both cups. Otherwise, interference may arise before the entire assembly is securely tightened into the frame. Continuing with the dry fit. Thread the upper cup in. Again, rough alignment is sufficient, but one turn only. Check that the tensioner is not interfering with any protrusions deep inside the head tube. There may be bumps or other protrusions in there that need to be sanded off. There are none in this Rocky Mountain frame. That's lucky. Use a 19mm socket with extension and the spline tool that comes with your slacker and engage the tensioner from below. Now with one hand hold the driver and with the other hand hold the bike. With your third hand align the upper cup and with your fourth hand align the lower cup. If you don't have four hands like me, get someone to help you with this step. It makes it go much easier. Tighten the tensioner in the normal right-hand thread clockwise rotation until the two cups pull together. Do not over-tighten. This is just a dry test fit. Check that there is a small gap between the head tube and the underside of the cups, top and bottom. This gap is good. It is necessary. It ensures that the cups are seated properly on the internal tapers. Now you can disassemble the slacker and we'll prepare for the install. Put a thin, even film of friction paste on your bearing seats. Use friction paste for carbon and aluminum frames. Put a small line of blue, not red, thread locker on the male slacker threads. Do not use too much or it can become very difficult to get these fine, large diameter threads apart in the future. Start the tensioner in the lower cup. Insert the lower cup with the tensioner into the head tube. You can roughly clock the rotational position. With the notch to the frame mark that you made earlier, we will adjust the clock position more accurately later. Thread the upper cup in, also one turn only. A rough alignment is sufficient. Align the notches to your marks on the frame more accurately now. Tighten the tensioner home to 30 Newton meters while holding the rotational position of both the upper and the lower cups. Check that your alignment is good, top and bottom. If not, loosen the tensioner slightly, adjust the rotation, and retighten. Install your headset bearings with a thin film of grease to prevent corrosion, and then reassemble your fork and stem normally, and you're done. Contact support at 9.8.ca with any questions you may have, and our customer support team will be pleased to help you.